This episode features our Sexual 2 panel. Welcome to The Art of Growth, where we use the Enneagram and the best tools we can find to help you transform. We are in our season of 27 panels of the subtypes. And a subtype is where the dominant instinct combines with the dominant type. And this week are the Type 2 panels. This season has been an incredible reflection on how each type relates to their instinctual stack, their instinctual sequence. So we are talking to these panels and understanding the nuance of how they relate to their dominant instinct, their secondary or neutral instinct, and their repressed or resisted instinct. If you don't yet know your instinctual sequence, you can go and take our test that's on www.theartofgrowth.org. And we have a free test there that will show what your dominant is, as well as your secondary and the one that could use some growth around it. You can also go there to take our free Enneagram test to find out about group coaching, individual coaching, and how we work with organizations, as there is a growing awareness of the return on investment when companies increase their emotional intelligence and can relate to each other and their customers better. But for now, let's get into this episode with our Sexual 2 panel. There's growing evidence that our literal neurological networks are changed, expanded, and healthier when we listen to the stories of others and when we share our own story. So thank you for listening to the stories in these panels, and thank you to so many of you now who are sharing your stories with us. It's an amazing honor to be a part of this work and to witness this. But now, let's get into it with the Sexual 2 panel.
All right, well, welcome everyone to the Sexual 2 podcast. And the reason why we're going through all of them this season, 27 panels, is because we know that the subtype makes all the difference in the world. The type is one thing, but then once the type meets the instinct, it creates this different expression. And we hope you'll see that through the different twos that we're talking to, the self-preservation 2, the sexual 2, and the social 2. And so today we are so thrilled to have you with us. I'd love for you to begin by introducing yourself, telling us where you're from.
I'm Holly, and I'm from Huntsville, Alabama.
My name is Hattie. I am from Wisconsin.
I'm Janae, and I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina.
I'm Madeline, and I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Awesome. Well, it is so good to see you and have you here. We're going to begin by talking about the type, just briefly mentioning the type's need, the core need to be loved, to be wanted, to be helpful, to be connected, and how that expresses itself through the three aspects of the sexual instinct. And the first one is risk, taking risks, pushing the envelope, bringing about change. It's not always being risky to the type, but it's that kind of pushing to see things move forward. I'd love for you to tell me how your need to be loved, to be helpful, to be wanted, to be connected shows up through this aspect of risk-taking.
Honestly, for me, probably the most poignant time I can remember pushing that envelope is internet. We had just gotten really kind of into internet chatting, AOL chat rooms, just to date myself a bit. And I was chatting with this guy, and we were just really connecting, talking about our interests and everything. And I was like, you know what? We're going to exchange addresses. We're going to do the exact thing my parents told me to never do. And we're going to exchange addresses and pictures. And when that envelope came in, I was so excited. But then my mom was like, who's this person? I don't know them. And so I got like a 2-week ban from being on the internet, but it was so worth it just to get that handwritten letter and that picture of this person I had connected with online. And so I've seen myself kind of push those boundaries, ignore that voice. It's like, is that a good idea? Should you do that? Like, I'm going to do it anyways, because for me, the reward is more than worth that risk.
Yeah. Could you say a little bit about what the reward is for you?
Honestly, for me, a lot of the time, it's that connection, feeling that I've made an impact on somebody else's existence, their life, especially if it's in a positive way, if I'm helping them, even if it's through a tough time. But that connection, knowing that putting myself out there is being received positively, is being acknowledged. And a lot of the times when I put myself out there, it's also returned in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you just described that. Before I comment on that, I'd love to hear from Madeline or Holly. What do you...
Well, it's so funny. I'm so glad that I let you go first, Janae, because that's exactly what I was actually going to talk about. So that's so funny. For risk, for me, the main thing I thought about was just being so open with dating. Same thing, like 14, would talk to anyone on the internet, was always grounded growing up. And oh my gosh, that's what I was known for. So definitely I did it then, but really like my early 20s, I just had every dating app. I just talked to anyone. And my friends thought it was so crazy and dangerous. And I'm like, no, I have all these boundaries in place. It's fine. How are you going to meet people without meeting people? And there's so many women that like don't talk to anyone. And they're like, why don't I have a boyfriend? And like, because you have to talk to people. You have to put yourself out there. But now understanding Enneagram, I get that my way is not how everyone thinks, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, definitely related to like, the reward is greater because through that risk and loving meeting new people, there definitely was a lot of heartbreak though, because I'm still a 2. So it's the reward is there, but you know that eventually you're going to pay for it. And when it does work out is so great. Like just keep on doing it.
For me, the boundary thing is I had this joke. I tell my husband rules are meant to be broken, right? I think there's a workaround for anything. And I think that you can't get a yes if you're not willing to put yourself out there and challenge and ask hard things. Like no just means you need to ask a different way. So that is where my boundaries come in terms of not always being the greatest. They have benefited me many times, especially as I've worked my way up in my career, if you will. Relationships, sometimes not taking no has, but it's just making sure the other person is comfortable in that seat. And I hate to have to say this out loud, but I've had someone once tell me, you don't have very good boundaries. And I was like, ooh, when I was young, I'm 45 now and I was in my early 20s. And I was like, when I look back on that, I was like, I absolutely did not. And I can't argue that. Now that I've gotten older and that I'm doing some self-reflection, it's making sure that the risk I take, the reward makes sense. And there's a pureness behind why I'm taking that risk, if you will. Like I'm not doing it just for selfish gain, that it's important to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I really appreciate that honesty there in terms of like knowing that there is something more to it, that you might be looking for something. Could you say a little bit, if you're, comfortable doing so, could you say a little bit about what that is?
Well, for landing a relationship I might want in the past, I'm married now, so that's not an issue. Or really for my career path, it was just more, I had a place I wanted to go. My needs were not being met where I was situated and where I was sitting, and I wanted to grow and go. Just pushing the boundaries, not being scared to ask things that most people would go, I cannot believe you just asked that. I cannot believe you just said that. And sometimes people would even say, you're fearless. I was always the one at work that when someone needed something done or a yes, hey, Holly, I need to have this conversation with so-and-so. I know you can get a yes. How do you do that? Or can you help me come up with an idea to have those hard conversations or that kind of thing? So really for me, it showed up a lot in my career over the last couple of years more than anywhere.
For me, it's not wanting a relationship that's just kind of like surface level and not just sharing like the good parts of my life, for example, but like wanting somebody that's like wants to hear about the bad stuff too and wants to tell me about the bad stuff. I guess that's just kind of what I need, like in a relationship, all of it, and not just what might make you feel good or might be like a fun, happy topic or something. But I like love all the bad, hard stuff. So, and just kind of pushing for that. I don't know. I feel like I'm not really satisfied until I've gotten to like that point in a relationship.
We talk about risk in different ways. There's a risk of like risk in relationship. And a lot of you were talking about that. Like I'm willing to take risks and put myself out there. And we'll come back to broadcasting a little bit more. But there's also the risk that sexual twos will take to bring about change. that others wouldn't want to bring in a family system and a corporate system or in just friendship, and kind of push people to take risks, to bring some changes in the space, and how the two then sees that as connected to what's good for them. And that's distinctly different than, say, the self-preservation two or the social two. Could you talk a little bit about that? Have you seen that in yourself, and have you done that sometimes, like push change because you could see that it would benefit the people you care about?
I love the word bold, because I think that, to me, that's a beautiful thing that can be about twos, is that once twos are bold, then we're enabled to help enact change that is impactful, that may be needed, that may be necessary to get people excited about it. It always takes that one person to stick their neck out, right, to do the right thing and to take the risk, and not everybody's willing to do that. And so that is one thing that I do admire in other twos. And just, there's so much shame, I think, sometimes associated with twos, but I love the word bold, because I think it takes bold people and twos to be able to make good change, real change happen sometimes, regardless of what the situation is. So I love that word.
Yes.
Professionally, for me, I am a sexual assault survivor advocate. So a lot of my professional life is pushing my clients to do better, or to take a risk, or to be more like what comes naturally to me, kind of. And so I definitely can see that playing out there. It is kind of a risk, though, because you have to kind of not push too hard, but push hard enough. I think I also agree that I like the word bold. Try this, let's do this, let's work on this. But then there's also that tipping point. And so I think sometimes it can be a little tricky for me to be like, okay, if I push so hard, all my work is going to be for nothing. So I think there is like that weighing the risks versus, rewards, and kind of knowing when to ease up a little bit. But definitely kind of a natural thing, I think, for me. So
I'm usually very much on the soft-spoken side, and I love letting things play out. But when I'm kind of pushed into that corner, that's when I have no problem just going straight to, okay, then we're going to go. If we need to go for a more direct method, then we can go ahead and do that. And I'm doing a stay-at-home mom thing right now, but it's definitely come out a lot with my son. And as he's been navigating through life, he's 6 now, and we had an issue with one of his preschools that he was attending. And so we finally decided to pull him out. And I remember we were having a conversation with the director, and it's full stop. No, this is what we're going to do. This is the route we're going to take. And these are the decisions that I need to make for my child. And I remember leaving, and me and my husband got into the car, and he looked at me. He was like, I didn't know you had that in you. And I don't bring it out very often, but I do when I have to. It's interesting, especially when we will do it on somebody else's behalf, or because we know it will benefit whoever we're advocating for or pushing that change for. I know, at least for me, I'm more likely to push those boundaries on the behalf of somebody else before I do for my own.
Right.
That's a great distinction. Thank you for saying that. I think I see some head nodding.
Mm-hmm.
That's true for the others here. You're more like, risk for other types would be like, I'll take risks for me. But for twos, because of this connection back to people, that seems to be true for you as well?
Definitely.
Yeah. This is where the instinct can sometimes work against the type. It can sometimes work for the type. And then, that doubles down on some features. But in this case, risk can push against relationship, or can cost relationship connection with people. Does that come up for you sometimes? Do you feel that tension internally? Like, I want to take a risk, but this may cost me something relationally.
I think for myself, I am very willing to take that risk, because I feel like it kind of weeds out some relationships that might not really be enough for me anyway. And that maybe comes across as kind of harsh, but yeah, I'm kind of choosy on who is very close to me. I almost use it as a tool, I think, to kind of push things and risk things. And if it doesn't work out, I'm usually kind of okay with that. I don't know if that's normal, but
what do you mean by not enough for me? The relationship is that it's not enough for me. What does that mean?
It's kind of along the lines of, I want someone who's going to be there as much as I'm there for them. having that level of relationship that like I want to have with them. And if they're sort of not at that same place, I think that we can be friendly, but I don't know if it's going to be like a strong relationship in my life. I mean, it's maybe a little scary still. I would hope that like the risk wouldn't push them away or, you know, be too much. But I think in the end, it like kind of helps me out sometimes in like knowing who is going to sort of be there for me.
I related to that too about, you know, weeding people out. My friends are often like, why would you say that? You know, that's pushing the boundary. Like, you don't say that to a guy. I'm like, if he has an issue with me saying this, he's not going to stick around. So if anything, this is a good thing because you don't want people in your life that, you know, you have to be fickle and timid with and that aren't going to be there. So I definitely agree with that as well. And the other way you were asking, like, how can it cost you? I was thinking a lot when it comes to like the getting your needs met and seduction, sort of using like fusion and risk as well. I think that 2s can really seduce with the fact that like, hey, I'm a 2, like I will meet all your needs. I'm going to be all in. And this can be very charming and enticing at first. And people love this. Like they feel seen, they're getting their needs met. But often I think the cost is that over time, especially with certain personality types, that can begin to feel smothering, or like Hattie was talking about, 2s like to go deep. They're like, okay, this was like fun and exciting, but I'm ready to get off this ride now because I'm tired of having these conversations. And it's sort of like our superpower, but the risk of using it is it's so strong. It can get people in, but it doesn't always make them stay. In the long run, it can be pushed too far. So that's sort of the cost that I've seen is like, am I using these tools and am I using my personality structure that I might be getting this person in, but is this going to end up hurting me in the long run because eventually it's too much? So then you're balancing like, do I just not even show that? Do I not go all in? But then that's not satisfying. And so that's the cost that I have seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a hard balance between the wanting to be authentically who you are and not wearing people out.
Yeah.
Who are not like you, who don't have that same energy. You know what I mean? I think that's such a tough balance. And I've had to tell myself, like, we have some friends in our group that I don't go as deep with, but the value for me in those friendships and those relationships is the pressure's off. Like, I don't have to bare my soul and talk about, I don't know, frivolous things. And sometimes that's a little bit of a positive. I feel like a good escape from so much of our 2-ness, you know? So I've just had to learn to value those relationships that don't go all the way in, which is what I do prefer, but they still meet a need, even if they're not right where I am.
Huge kudos to you, Holly. This is one of the things that we actually teach in and practice ourselves in group coaching through the instincts, learning to balance that. So as a sexual type myself, I'm aware of that propensity towards there's only one way to connect, and it's this intensity, and then learning to appreciate and receive different kinds of energy. It comes from self-preservational or it comes from the social instincts. So I appreciate that. Shay, what are your thoughts about that?
I was thinking about a friend that I ended up losing. He just completely disappeared on me one day. It just got too much. And I realized after the fact, way after the fact, I was like, he just couldn't handle the depth that I wanted from him. And we were good for a bit, but then lack of communication. And so it definitely set me back personally. I'm like, okay, can anybody handle me where I want to go? And so just learning to kind of be mindful of, okay, well, I will throw out little things like, okay, well, let's see if they can handle this. And then I'll just kind of stay at that level for a bit. I'm like, okay, well, let's take it up a notch. And okay, we still good? All right. But learning that, as you said, not everybody can handle what we want out of them, but also learning to respect and to see and receive, most importantly, what other people are willing to give us. Absolutely. And acknowledging that as its own form of love and attention and respect.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a struggle.
yet.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love how you said that. That's key. You have the heart, you get the sexual energy. That's the part that really doubles down on heart energy. It's like so much to connect with, and you've got this gift. And what you've all four of you have been doing is connecting and blending, which is intuitive and it makes a lot of sense. Risk, broadcasting, and fusion. And so it's great because I don't need to go necessarily down each one step by step because you've been doing it. You've talked about how you broadcast. You'll put you'll throw the fishing line out there and see what's happening and if anybody bites. And then also, but it's all in service of that deeper connection, the fusion between you and another person. So that's been really good. Let's talk about the neutral instinct. Which one is second for you and how do you use it?
So my second is social. And there were a few things that I realized. One is definitely connecting others. I've heard many twos talk about this of like, they're like, I'm the unofficial go-to person to connect you with who you're looking for, with what you need. I love doing that. I have found that no matter how hard I try not to do this, whatever group or social setting I'm in, I somehow become the welcoming committee and the connection desk. And I love it, honestly. Like, I've just decided this is me. I'm going to stop pushing against this. The thing that I have to be mindful of is that I don't overstep because of that. For example, I'm in a small group and I'm not leading it, I'm receiving. And this has been such a blessing because I'm always leading. But I think it's that sexual energy wanting to push and enact change as well. I see problems and I want to make it better and I want to fix it, but I also want to respect authority. So I'm always inviting new people to our group, which I think is a great thing. But one of my leaders is, when I'm like, I got new recruits, he's looking at me like, why do you keep inviting people? I'm like, well, bring them on in. We need to grow. And so that's something that I think is a strength of a two, but I also think that it can be a weakness if you don't know when to like turn that off. And then the other thing was the bonding and affiliating zone. I definitely love collaboration. Like, if I'm going to have to be in sales and business, which a lot of those aspects can be hard for twos, collaboration, and if it benefits another person, makes it all better, makes it so much fun. Like, through that lens, I can make the things that are hard for me better. So love collaborating, love getting to partner, like interview other people, partner with other businesses. I'll feel more comfortable, for example, doing a giveaway if someone else is involved than if it's just myself. So I've learned how to sort of leverage the bonding and the affiliating and the collaborating to where it helps me, but I know that it's also genuinely helping someone else. So I think that's mainly how I use my social instinct.
I'm also social as my neutral. Probably the most I think I've actually used it was probably when I was working retail, because it flows so easily. It's like, okay, this person's looking at this outfit, it's this time of year, and just kind of reading who needed help, who just wanted to be left alone, because there are always those shoppers. I'm like, okay, I will be nearby. You see me nearby. If you need me, I'm here. But also definitely collaborating. I love working on, especially those big projects. It's like, I want to do something big, but I can't do it by myself. And I know I can't do it by myself. And so I will find those people. It's like, okay, well, we will tag team on this and we will build up from here. I also find my social supporting my sexual instinct to a great deal as well. Being able to read people just comes in handy so often. Going into that kind of fusion immersion, being able to pick up, okay, they lit up when we started talking about this. Can we talk about it more? Because I love it and you love it. So let's go deep down this one lane. And then figuring out, okay, we've made eye contact across the room, reading energy. Okay, well, I'm going to go in and we're going to go and have a deeper conversation, or at least I'm going to introduce myself and see where things go from there. I refer to it as my co-driver to my sexual instinct. It helps. It has that map occasionally. It's like, okay, we need to go here. And so then sexual instinct is just, okay, let's go.
I like that. This the co-driver. That's really good.
Social is also my neutral, and I just assumed I was going to be social. when I took the instincts test, in part because I had been leading teams. Like that was a clear part of what my role was at work. And so we're always collaborating. I'm always trying to get the best out of the team and keep them engaged and liking each other and all of those things. But the truth is, you put me in, let's say, a networking environment, I don't really love it. I'll work the room. I'll meet a lot of people. But really what I want is those one or two key connections that I can help take them and me to whatever the next level is. It is not my most favorite thing to do. And until Joel and I talked about it, I was surprised. And I had a couple of people that know me very well even say, including my therapist, she goes, "You're not social instinct," because I think we naturally too can appear that way very easily. It's just a given. We have lots of friends, but that's to me what's not most important. What's most important for me is those deep connections and relationships. So it was nice to know the difference and really understand where I fell because I didn't prior. So
far, the three of you, I'd love to hear from Hattie if this is how it works for you as well. But if your social is the second, for a lot of twos, the natural to begin with, you are going to be a people person. That's how you're designed. And so if people are around, you've got the heart energy, it goes out and you do make the connections. But it tends to be that one serves the other when it comes to the instincts. Does the social serve the sexual, or is the sexual serving the social? And so social types will describe how they use the sexual occasionally when they need to, if that's their second, to lean in. Whereas for sexual types, it's like, yeah, I use the social. That's my canvas. I get to actually kind of do my thing there. Mm-hmm. And when you and I talked, that's what popped for you, Holly, was like, oh no, that's definitely what I'm doing. I'm using the social sphere to have that one or, two connections that goes deep. You're looking for that. Hattie, what about you?
So I'm the different one in this group. My neutral instinct is the self-preservation instinct. I feel like it can sometimes kind of like I know I'm a 2, but I feel different than other 2s. And I think sometimes it's having that higher self-preservation. I use it a lot to my benefit. I think I am really good at knowing when I've been giving too much, or I need to take a step back and take care of myself for a while. That kind of helps me with that. It just kind of helps me know I just need to take a nap right now, and I can't give anymore. The other thing that kind of stands out to me when I read about the self-preservation is just that idea of wanting to be in a cozy home, bringing that cozy home kind of with me when I'm out and about, even to work or whatever. I just want people to feel really comfortable around me. I want to be really comfortable. I want to know that I'd have everything I need and I can just kind of relax and not have to be worried about that. And I think that helps me to be a better 2, a more healthy 2 sometimes, is just being able to take care of myself, know that I have the things that I need. And then I can kind of give more, I think, to other people and feel more fulfilled in doing that, because I'm not so worried about oh shoot, I just didn't even think to I don't know, start supper or something because I was so busy, doing something for somebody else. So I think it's definitely been really helpful. I think it's helps me professionally and just with my family and taking care of my kids and stuff like that. So
Addie, I'm jealous.
Same.
that is your 2-ness.
When you guys are talking about all the social stuff, I'm like, nope. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Good for you.
That's not the case at all for me. But it's so interesting to hear that, because all the other stuff you're talking about, I could totally relate to. I'm like, yeah, definitely. And then as soon as you started talking about this, I'm like, nope, I'm out. This is like a foreign language to me.
Oh, yeah.
That's so good. I'm glad you're the odd person here, Hattie, because this illustrates so beautifully the diversity within the types, even when you have the same subtype, because your second does influence a lot. And that's what we're learning through the season, is how much it does. You're going to hear the Social 2 podcast where there's one social who's like, oh, my second self-preservation. And they describe, and each person who has the self-pres as their second, each of them, very similar to what you just said, describe it as the sort of protective, thing, that energy that's within them, the protective intelligence. It's like, oh, I'm getting tired. I should pull back here. But if you're sexual and your second social, or social and your second sexual, there's very little of that. It just tends to kind of put itself out there. And so it's the integration of all the brilliance that's within all of the instincts that we're looking for more in our lives. So that leads us to this third, the neglected one for each of us. And three of you, I already know, right? Really easy. The third is the self-pres. And for one of you, the third is the social. So talk to me about which is your third, the neglected, what problems it's caused you, and how you're learning to integrate it more, how you're growing through it.
I'll start because I realized as I was hooking up my laptop that I have not eaten lunch today. So I made sure my kid ate lunch. I made sure my husband was in the process of eating lunch, but not me. And that's not unusual. Usually it'll be like, I'll get the grumblies like about 4 or 5. I'm like, did I eat lunch? Did I feed myself today? I know I had breakfast at least. Definitely problematic on a survival level, knowing that I need to fuel myself with actual substantive things, not just feelings and good vibes and energy, but I need food to survive. It's a struggle. It's out of all the instincts, it's something I consciously have to think about. It's like, oh, I need to eat. I need to work out. I should probably sit down and do laundry or clean something today. And so it feels like it takes almost more energy than the other instincts that just kind of flow naturally. It's like, oh, okay, I'm finally getting into a rhythm of working out. But even then I sit up and I start to talk myself out of it half the time. It's like, do I have the energy to do other stuff after I work out? That's the important thing. The working out is not important. It's what comes after that. And so I've had to see that it's a means to an end. And the biggest reason I've kept up with working out is because I know I sleep better. And if I sleep better, I have more energy the next day and I can do more things for more people. So that's probably... It's problematic because I have to kind of struggle with it so much, but at the same time, I know it's necessary for everything else I have going on.
I feel like twos with the sexual and social, we're kind of addicted to busyness. You know what I mean? Like, yes. What more can I take on my plate? I love to say how busy I am. And it's that cliche, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Mm-hmm. And the beauty in the self-pres is realizing you're really going to help more people. You're going to impact more people when you love yourself first. And man, and that is hard to hardwire. So difficult and such a challenge. I think that's one thing the pandemic has taught me. I led a pandemic task force, and at the end of it, I was tapped out. I started developing an eye twitch that wouldn't stop. And I was like, and it still does it sometimes if I've got a lot on my plate. And it's like the reminder that, oh my gosh, like you have this, you're needed right now. And you're doing important work, but you're doing yourself a disservice and the people you're supposed to be serving, because look at you, you're a hot mess. you're tapped out, you know? And so it's just remembering that God wants us to take care of ourselves too. He does. He so wants that. That is hard though. It's hard for the two to do, because I feel like in that self-pres moment, you feel very selfish. Sometimes like, oh, I could be doing this for this person, or I should be doing this for this person. And even during the pandemic, I'm usually the one that never misses the birthday cards, never misses the special surprises when things are going rough. And I didn't have time to do all that. And I struggle with that. I felt guilty because I wasn't that person, but I couldn't be. And so it's been a good, very hard lesson for me.
You are who we designed the thing we throw on social media every now and then that says self-care is not selfish. It's like a motto that some of you need to remember. And we wrote it specifically for that kind of struggle.
For sure.
Oh, I appreciate the honesty there, Holly, and hearing your heart. I feel that. So thank you. Madeline.
Gosh, I have so much to say on this because I can see it so loudly in my life, the struggle with self-preservation. I feel like when Hattie was talking about it's that protective thing, I feel like it is sort of yin yang, the protective to the sexual instinct. And I can often see it and I get those signals. So like I have grown at least in that, but I found it's following it when I know it and when I see it. That's more what's hard. Something that's really hard for me is the areas of self-preservation, cleaning, basically everything you talked about, Janae, anything to do with just materials and cleaning and organization and eating, such normal things. So I struggle to do them, which is already hard in and of itself. But what I struggle with more as a two is that all of my parents and my boyfriend are all self-preservation and they're 1s and 3s. And they just can't understand those normal things not being easy for me. That's harder for me than anything, because I've tried to explain it. They just think I don't want to adult. And sure, like, I'm sure we all have that aspect, but I try to explain to them, like, listen, I have my spoon theory. I have this many spoons of energy, connecting, my work, all of these things come first. I will get to that. But if I don't, like, I don't get to it, just like you don't get to these things with your sexual, you know? And so like having people not understand that is what's hard for me. And I heard it said about being self-preservation blind, how sometimes you literally, your mind doesn't even see the clutter. Like my house is very cluttered. I see it sometimes more and it bothers me, but I can get into sexual and social and I forget about it. Mm-hmm. Someone walks into my house and they're like, how do you live here? And I'm like, it doesn't bother me. The growth path then is trying to make myself care about something I don't care about, and doing that whole means to an end. Basically, I have to channel my self-preservation through my sexual or my social. So have someone clean with me, go to a nature park and walk with someone, figure out a way to make it enjoyable. Listen to a podcast when I clean. That helps a lot if I get myself to do it. So definitely channeling it helps. But yeah, it's a really big struggle for me, for sure. And another thing that I thought was interesting on neglecting self-preservation, definitely sleep. Sleep is so good for twos when it's good, but like taking care of our skin, eating these things, so many twos, I hear that they neglect these things. My sleep schedule 6 months ago got turned around to, I stayed up to 6:30 a.m. one night and it never turned back. And so now it's 6 months later and I've developed an actual disorder called delayed sleep syndrome. And I go to sleep at 7 a.m. every day and I work from home. This is why I'm able to do this. And I wake up at 1 or 2 p.m. or 5 p.m. And honestly, it's been so hard. And if people look at it, they're like, how have you not fixed this? Now it's really hard to fix. But I know, I'm like, it's my self-preservation blind. I've just worked my schedule around this. It's so hard for me to attack those things that I've just worked my life around this. So that's sort of an extreme example. That's something I'm working on, but it's a struggle for me for sure.
Well, I'm glad we're catching you fresh after your night's sleep or morning.
Yes.
The social, sexual, sexual, social, those two combination are find it difficult to inhabit the physical material world. It's a difficult place to live. We love the heart, the head, the relationship, the ideas. We love that world. It's the other world, that the physical material world, that's tough. So let's flip that and let's hear from Hattie from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Well, I can definitely relate to people not understanding when it comes to the social being my very, very weak instinct. Like on the quiz, it was like, well, 1% or something. It was so low. I was like, oh no, this is a problem. Yes, my social instinct needs a lot of help. It's pathetic. I would say that being a 2 with basically no social instinct can be really lonely. It's difficult to sort of to explain to other people, because it's difficult even for myself to understand how I can really love people, but at the same time not really like them. it's like tricky. I honestly, stumbling upon these instincts and really understanding them, I would say for the first time, like on a deep level, only for the last like few months has really changed how I think about a lot of this stuff. I felt so, I don't know, like misunderstood before. And now I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. I like being around people, I like helping them. I like being in their lives. I like when they're in my life. But at the same time, for example, going to like a Christmas party at church, like I'd rather rip out my fingernails. It's like my worst nightmare. I hate it. But I'm like this, I didn't understand for such a long time, like the disconnect between wanting people to be in my life and wanting to put like into their life. But at the same time, like if somebody asks me about like the weather or a sports team, like one more time, I'm going to just like run out of here screaming. It's so exhausting to me to talk about things that don't seem to matter to me. And I have to really tell myself like, this matters to them. They're talking to you. You need to like pretend to not hate this. But it can be really exhausting. Like I have a very short time that like I can give to do those things. And then I'm just like, I'm done. It can be hard. I want to, as a two, I'm really wanting to like help invest, but at the same time, it's like, I kind of want to do it from a distance sometimes, or it's really hard for me to get to the point of having a friend. I don't have a lot of friends. I have never had a lot of friends. I'm generally okay with that. But it can be lonely sometimes, especially like as somebody who loves people, not having a lot of people, I can be really lonely. I love getting to the point where I have that deep connection with someone. Getting to that point though, can be unbearable. Like it's like I'm like, I can't do it. It's not worth it. Like I can't kind of force myself to go through these motions, at least not enough to like, not for as long of a period as I should, or for like as frequently as I should to get to the point of having those deep friendships that I really like long for. Getting to that point is like such a battle for me. It's like I'll be driving to like an event or even like for work or something, like more of like a business, like a meeting people or that kind of thing, to like psych myself out the whole way there. Like, what are some things I can talk about with people that are like not deep, that are not going to scare them away? Like, what are some things, that I can say? And I really have to like, I feel like I should almost make like little like note cards that are like, talk about this. And yeah, it's hard. Like I have the idea of the desire of like bringing people together or working on something collaboratively, like I just cannot relate to that at all. Like if it was a group project, I'd rather everyone just leave me alone, let me do it. Afterwards, I'll tell you all about what I did and we can hang out, but like working on something together is so exhausting to me. It's really like a chore. And sometimes it has to happen because that's how life works. But it is like very draining for me. Like I really need to like go home and just zone out in front of a TV if I've had to like be around a bunch of people, like networking and collaborating and meeting people and stuff like that can be really, really hard for me. So this is a very odd feeling of like liking people, like wanting relationships, but kind of being exhausted from the process, I guess. So I'm really trying to work on it. I honestly feel like it has held me back a lot in life. And so just like really doing like baby steps to just practice. I've tried to do like just going to church and being like, okay, I'm going to find 3 people and I'm going to ask them a question about their life. Like a very, like, I don't know. Oh, how is your kid doing in first grade this year? Ho, 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 and then just walk away and don't ask anything deeper or try to get anything from them. Just like, that's great. I'm so happy to hear that. And then just let it rest. It's like so hard for me.
Is that hard for you to end or exit a relationship that's not good for you or healthy for you? The reason I ask that is because to me, as a sexual and social, like I will hang on to something for years. I've stayed in a relationship 3 years past what it needed because I was like, I can make them love me. I got the power to do this. I can make this work. But hearing that you've got that whole self-pres connection, do you find when you get to go deep with people, if it's not healthy for you or not really truly reciprocal and giving you what you need, is it easy for you? And easy might be the wrong word, to pull out of that? Or do you still struggle with that too?
I don't know if I'd use the word easy, but I think it probably is not as hard for me. Being in a relationship that is such a so much effort going into it on my part, I just don't think I can. It's just so difficult for me to sustain that I think I'm not saying it'd be easy. Letting go of any relationship is not oh, that's no problem, Sure. But I think that that self-pres does come into it a little bit and just be this is too hard for me. I can't put all my energy into this. I need to save my energy for either other people who are going to kind of give me what I need or just other endeavors.
Okay.
I feel like you have to perform in the relationship in each one every time you meet with somebody.
Yeah. I need to prepare for some big performance every time.
Yeah. So I feel that from you, and I feel the draw, and I feel the fatigue. And as a sexual too, followed by self-preservation, there is a way for you to be able to move forward towards relationships, to have actually what you need, which is that deeper connection. But maybe also using some of the self-pres, and we could talk about this offline, but using some of the self-pres as a means to pull back a little bit. The connection, and I can feel it in you. I know what you're talking about when you say that in social settings, it's exhausting. If you don't have the social instinct as your second, sexual, it can already be tiring to have a large group of people, because the sexual energy tends to find its natural flow without energy to kind of connect one-on-one with people. When there's many, it creates extra fatigue, brain fatigue. And so if you don't have social as your second, self-pres as your second, that's that much more difficult. And then you have the heart part of you, which is the need to I've got to do something for you to be pleased with me. And that part adds to that. And so then you're in a situation where you're already this is hard, and I only know how to do the deep, and I want to do something in a way that they like me, and I feel that compelled to do that. And so those, I think, are the factors that are kind of working against you a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's completely right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the integration of the instincts is really where a lot of our growth takes place. Difficult. I so appreciate you all saying how difficult it is, because it is. But there are ways, and you're discovering some of those ways, how to begin to move forward, how to begin to bring a little bit of that other one online. Even Hattie, what you were saying about do I bring note cards with me to talk about what feels very shallow to me, and have that level of conversation, then walk away not asking for anything more. Yeah, I mean, I had to start doing that myself. I literally would have lines in my head going to events where I would say, these are the lines I'm going to use. Because I never think to say, hey, how's your family? How are your kids? I just don't think of those things. Those things aren't natural. And so I would prepare those things. Now they are, but they weren't a few years back. And so I would use those and then okay, stop there. Don't go any deeper, pull back, And at first it is dissatisfying. It takes time to begin to integrate the other instincts and, self-preservation for the other three of you here. It is something that you can learn to use as a means to an end. And that is definitely how to do it to begin with. So, but again, thank you so much. I really deeply appreciate the four of you opening up as much as you have and talking about your own life, your own journey, and how that sexual energy works its way through the features of the two. So deep appreciation to each of you. Thank you so very much.
I agree with Joel so much. You were very, very open, and you brought your true heart, and that is the true gift. And so we're so full of gratitude for the gift of yourself that you've been willing to give. I know it's not easy. It's hard to be vulnerable and just to put yourself out there, and then to be, have it also be a public thing. but we live our lives out loud, and it's a gift to everyone around. So thank you so much for doing that, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening and for going on this learning journey with us. Make sure you are subscribed, and if you leave us a review, it really helps the algorithm to help other people find this work. Find the free Instincts test and all of our work at www.theartofgrowth.org. And follow us on Instagram at Art of Growth. So today, my friends, let us remember that love is a risk. We want to risk well and risk often, because to create that connection is worth it to a wider community of people who we get to be a part of their lives. And we are reminded to invest a little bit more in some of those closest to home. Know you are loved, and from that place, put yourself out there. Grace and growth, my friends.